Hey, what's going on? I decided to do something, a little different. It's going to be Stephen King ranking. This is going to be my top 10 favorite Stephen King adaptations, and I'm not going to include TV series. So there's not going to be the TV It or The Stand or anything like that. It's not going to be, it's just going to be the movies that have been, created from his books into movies. And I thought it was a good idea because honestly, I like Stephen King. I like pretty much all of his movies. Um, and, there's been a big surge of Stephen King adaptations lately, on Netflix. And obviously, you got It that just came out recently. So I think it'd be a good idea. And, this might be a little controversial, but it's just my opinion. So here we go. Number 10 is going to be the Netflix movie 1922. Uh, Honestly, I was surprised how much I liked this. This was actually a really, really good movie. Now, it can be a little slow paced. Some people think it kind of drug on a little too long. Um, and I guess there were some moments that could have been cut off in the movie, but I really liked the beginning of it. And, it kind of tells a story of this man who he was extremely guilty. He killed his wife for reasons that, she wanted out of the farm life. This takes place in Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken, Nebraska or Wisconsin. She wants to get out. She hates the farm life. The farm is actually was her father's land, and she wants out of the farm business. She wants to go live in the city and take her son. And the dad does not want this to happen, so he and the son actually kill the mom. And after she dies, there's a lot of crazy things that happen. Um, the farm and the land start dying off. All this shit starts happening to the house. And it's actually a really good movie. It has, I guess, kind of that Children of the Corn feel to it, I guess, because the farm is actually a cornfield farm. So I do like 1922, and I think it's a really good movie, especially as of late. Number 9 is going to be Children of the Corn. So back to back corn movies, I guess you could say. And obviously, this movie is so iconic. Um, it's a really good movie overall. It's a shame that the series, because there's a lot of Children of the Corn movies, and it's a shame that the franchise really just went so crazy. But this is by far the best Children of the Corn, and it's the original, guys. It's not the remake. Even though I am a fan of the remake, even though I did not like the married couple in that movie. But this movie's really good. The third act, I wasn't a huge fan of the third act. I think that's what brings it down for me. And at the time, this movie was considered one of the scariest movies at the time because, you know, it's kind of creepy, and it still is creepy to think about kids taking over a town and killing all the adults. I think the idea and the premise of this is actually a really good one. And Children of the Corn is one of my favorite horror movies. It's one of my favorite Stephen King movies. That's why it's my number 9. Number 8 is going to be Christine. I know this might be a little low for some people. Uh, excuse me. This might be a little low for some people. A lot of people think Christine is probably in the top 3, top 5. Don't get me wrong. I really like this movie. It's directed by the great John Carpenter. The acting in this is pretty good. And honestly, you know, the idea of it might seem a little silly, but honestly, it is kind of a creepy movie. I think John Carpenter did such a good job with really having the car is the main character. I think he did a really good job with that. If it was another director, um, I don't think it would have worked quite as well. And honestly, hopefully they do not remake this movie because I don't think this movie really would work in this time period. I do not think it would work in 2018. Back then, I think it worked really well. The practical effects in this is really good, and you really get the sense that the car is alive and it is evil. And don't get me wrong, it's a really good movie. So don't let the number 8, you know, uh, you know, give a bad that act like I don't like this movie. This is my favorite. This is not worst to best. This is my top 10 favorite. So Christine is number 8. Number 7 Um, I think it's a decently popular movie. I don't think a lot of people talk about it as far as maybe the best movies, but I do think it's one of the best. That is The Mist. This is the one where obviously this mist comes down from the mountains and covers up the entire town. It's a small town, I believe, in New York, and these citizens are stuck in a grocery store. And it takes place primarily in the grocery store. And there's some creatures in the mist. They're kind of like bug-like creatures. It is a creepy movie. It's a sci-fi horror. It's not like a straight up horror like a lot of his movies are. But honestly, I really like this movie. Really good. It has one of the saddest endings in probably movie history. I mean, I'm not going to give it away if you've never seen it, but the ending in this is so fucked up. And it really, when you see it, you're like, oh my God, are you fucking serious? And you really feel for the character at the end. And I think it's a really good suspenseful movie. So I like the Mist. Number six, this is tough, guys. From probably here down, this was pretty tough for me. Number six is going to be Misery. Kathy Bates. I cannot remember the guy's name. I think it's Kane something. I can't. Sorry, I can't remember his name. Um, this is obviously a really popular movie. If I'm not mistaken, uh, at one point I believe this was his most successful box office movie. If I'm not mistaken, uh, if I'm wrong about that, please tell me in the comment section. But you know, this is one of Kathy Bates' best movies, one of her best performances, and honestly, you would think that it would be a little boring, but honestly, it's not because pretty much the whole movie, you got an author that is basically stuck in a bed because his legs are fucked up after an accident, and so basically the whole movie takes place in a house, and the main character is stuck in a bed. But honestly, there's a lot of creepy things that happen in this. Kathy Bates is crazy as hell. Obviously, you got the famous scene where she ties him down, breaks his legs with a sledgehammer. I mean, obviously, that's a iconic moment in any movie, especially horror movies, especially Stephen King movies. Misery, my number six. Number five, love the hell out of this movie, guys. Pet Cemetery. Uh, this is such an iconic movie. Um, you got the acting in this is decent. It's not the greatest. It's probably, honestly, this might be the weakest acting in my opinion out of this list. But overall, it still really is a good movie. You got the creepy sister from the backflashes from the wife is having. Um, you got the next door neighbor. The guy that lives across the street. He's the one that like introduces the pet cemetery. He's the one that introduces the Indian ground. Um, he's actually Judd. I believe his name is Jug. I believe or Judd. Judd is his name. He's actually my favorite character in this. He's one of my favorite characters in any Stephen King movie, and he's very mysterious. He's definitely the most well acted. If you don't know, he's the dad on the Monster movie or the TV show. Um, really like Pet Cemetery. Once again, it's a really heartbreaking ending. Uh, you feel for the dad at the end of this one, and it is a very creepy movie. Very good. Number four, 1408. Love the hell out of this movie, guys. I love hotels. I love hotel settings. As The Shining, and there's so many movies that take place kind of in a haunted hotel. And this one is not really a hotel; it's a room in a hotel, just a room, not an entire hotel. And I really like that. So you got John Cusack, you got Samuel L. Jackson. Um, from beginning to end, this movie's just it has you. I think it's it's really well written. It's well acted, really good directed, and it takes place mainly in a room. And I think that works perfectly. I think that room is creepy as hell, and there's a lot of shit that goes on in this movie, and I really like it. There is a ton of um, endings to this. There's like three, four, five different endings to this. Um, Probably my favorite one is when he's going through all that shit that got burnt. Finds his tape where his recorder plays it. You hear the daughter talking, and then the mom hears it and she freaks out. So that's probably my favorite ending of that. 1408, cannot go wrong with this movie. Really good movie. Number three, this one is going to be controversial to a lot of people because I know a lot of people hate this movie. They think it's the worst adaptation or one of the worst, but it's Secret Window. I love this movie. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. It's not flawed. It's definitely has some flaws in it. But I think Johnny Depp does a really good job in this. I love the cabin setting in this one. Now, when it gets out of the cabin, it does kind of take you out of the movie a little bit. Fortunately, it does not happen a lot. It is a psychological thriller, and I think it's more of the underrated psychological thrillers, in my opinion. I think Johnny Depp does a really good job. Johnny Depp usually always brings it in every movie. Um, he can be a tad goofy in this movie. I think a lot of people didn't like that. This, if you didn't know, this he came right out of the Pirates of the Caribbean in this. So right after Pirates of the Caribbean, boom, he started doing this movie. And some people feel like he still had that Jack Sparrow kind of you know personality going on. I don't think it was obviously that to that level, but I guess you can kind of see it a little bit, especially when somebody tells you about it. But I did like this movie. I like the ending. The cabin, the stuff that goes on in the cabin is really creepy. So that's why Secret Window is my number three. All right, here we are. The final two, guys. Um, and obviously, there's so many good ones out there with Stephen King. But I have number two is going to be It, the movie that we just got. It's not the miniseries, even though I do love the miniseries. But like I said, miniseries are not included in this. This is the It, the one that we just got. Um, I really love this movie, guys. I think everybody does. I haven't heard one bad comment, one bad review on this movie, and that's for good reason. I mean, I think I do like the guy that played it. I think it was a really different direction that this Pennywise is compared to the Tim Curry one. Now, I honestly, personally, I like the Tim Curry one a little bit better, but don't get me wrong. Was it Vansgard or whatever his name is? I can't remember his name. Um, I think he did a really good job in this. I think he did it. A lot of people think um, when you think of iconic horror characters like Freddy Krueger, and you can even throw in Pinhead, Pennywise, it's hard. It's so hard to replace those characters. But I think the guy that played Pennywise in this did a really good job. Honestly, he makes the movie for me. Obviously, it's a lot more creepier. It's a lot more bloody because it's a movie. It's not a miniseries. I think the movie is a fantastic movie, guys. There's nothing wrong with this movie. I liked it a lot, and I'm pretty pumped up for part two. But number one, guys, I don't think it's no big surprise. This is one of the best movies of all time. It's definitely one of the best horror movies of all time. That is The Shining. It's not the miniseries, of course. This is the one with Jack Nicholson. Um, there's so much I could talk about with this movie. I love the hotel setting, like I said. I love the snow element. I think it's Jack Nicholson makes this movie because outside of Jack Nicholson, the acting is not that great. And obviously, there's a lot of controversy about this movie. There was a lot of stuff behind the scenes. The director was driving everybody crazy because they kept changing the script over and over and over again. So, what you saw on screen was probably how they really were at that moment. Everybody in that movie, especially the actors, were just they went insane. It's a lot like the final girl on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, so yeah, I think Jack Nicholson. This is by far his best role, probably his best acting. My favorite scenes are the bar scene when he's talking to Lloyd. That's those two scenes when he is at that the ballroom. I think that is awesome. That's my two favorite scenes. Obviously, it's a really iconic ending to him. The maze, and he gets frozen, and then you see the picture that's always been in the hotel room in like 19 something, um, early 1900s, and you're like, okay, well, what the hell is this? It does kind of leave you on a cliffhanger. Um, once again, I hope they do not remake this movie. I know they got the miniseries. The miniseries is obviously more the level of the book. This one is pretty much completely different. But I love this movie, guys. I think this is obviously one of the best horror movies ever, and for good reason. It's so iconic and it's just legendary in the movie world. And I think it's one of the best movies ever made. So that's my list, guys. So what would be y'all's top 10 favorite Stephen King adaptations? If you guys want to throw in the miniseries, by all means go ahead. But I just stuck with the movies. Let me know in the comment section what you thought, and let me know about y'all's ranking. And please subscribe.